Do you think helping others is always good? Think again. Today, we're exposing the dark side of helping others through Stoic eyes. Many hidden problems come with helping others, and in this video, you'll learn all about them one at a time. Helping others can boost your ego, create dependence, and drain your energy, among many other problems. Sounds tough, right? Don't worry, we'll show you how to handle all these issues and more. We'll reveal how helping can make you feel superior, how it can make others rely on you too much, and how it can wear you out. We'll also talk about how your motives might not be as pure as you think, and how expecting something in return can lead to disappointment. Do you think you know what's best for others? That can backfire. We'll show you when and how to help without causing harm. Balancing helping others and taking care of yourself is tricky. Sometimes helping one person can hurt another. We'll guide you through these moral challenges and show you the Stoic way to help without falling into these traps. Stay tuned as we uncover the hidden costs of helping and learn to help wisely and virtuously. Let's start by talking a bit about Stoic care. Now, as we all know, Stoicism stresses balance in caring for yourself, others, and the environment. But helping others can sometimes backfire. Stoics warn that overextending yourself can lead to burnout, resentment, or moral fatigue. When helping others clashes with your own well-being, it causes problems. Stoics strive for a life where actions are rational and focused, but real-world care can mess this up. Too much self-sacrifice harms your integrity and neglects your needs, which are vital in Stoic ethics. Stoics believe in oikeiosis, the idea that care for oneself should extend to others. This is central to Stoic ethics, but risky. Overextending care can offset your responsibilities and misjudge your ability to help. If self-care isn't balanced with helping others, it depletes emotional and material resources, harming everyone involved. Stoics historically didn't focus on environmental care due to limited understanding. Applying Stoic principles today reveals a flaw. Too much focus on human ethics can ignore environmental impact. This ethical blind spot can harm life on a larger scale. Care for oneself and others is a basic human instinct, like self-preservation and raising offspring. Stoic philosophy challenges the divide between altruism or selflessness and egoism, viewing them as parts of the same drive. This view is key to understanding the dark side of helping others. From a Stoic viewpoint, basic drives like self-preservation and caring for others become complex due to our rational and social nature. This is key to oikeiosis, where we recognize and identify with things as our own. Motives aren't naturally good or bad. Ethical judgment comes later. This mix of self-interest and altruism can be tricky. As you probably already know, Stoics promote virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation, while valuing preferred indifference like health and property. The risk is prioritizing these indifference over virtue, leading to vice. And so, helping others can go wrong if done without wisdom or moderation. It can create dependency, erode dignity, or mask selfishness as generosity. Stoics believe true help empowers others to achieve virtue, not just providing material aid. The danger lies in how and why we help, aiming for virtue or enabling and spreading vice. When evaluating care ethics, you must ask if actions align with living virtuously. Are we helping others live better or satisfying our need to feel needed? This challenges surface altruism and calls for reassessing motives through Stoic wisdom. You should also know that, in Stoicism, self-care is strongly tied to ethical development. It's not selfish but essential for living a virtuous life. Managing one's affairs and virtues first is necessary, making care for others a cautious, selective act. The Stoics, like Cicero, say caring for others is natural, but not always good. Cicero explains that there are basic and developed forms of care. Only care driven by virtue is truly good. Without virtue, caring can lead to mistakes and harm. Stoics like him believe self-care and caring for others are linked. True care requires both, shaped by virtue. This balance is key for a fulfilling life. Helping others can indeed go wrong if not guided by virtue. Misguided help can interfere or create dependency, challenging modern views of altruism. Misapplied help can undermine autonomy and cause ethical confusion. We'll talk more about issues on dependency later on. In one of his books, Cicero offers a guide on applying Stoic principles to help others wisely. Stoic practice needs continuous learning to ensure both self-care and caring for others are virtuous. The Stoic virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation aim for self and societal betterment. The desire to help can lead to unintended consequences. Helping might become about seeking validation, creating dependency, or taking away the recipient's agency against Stoic values of self-sufficiency and empowerment. Cicero also shows virtues like courage and justice have two sides. Helping too much can lead to burnout and neglecting your own needs against Stoic principles of self-care and inner peace. Justice includes generosity, but Stoicism warns against such forms of misguided help. Now, moderation means respecting others, but we risk lowering our standards or ignoring injustices while helping. Helping one group might harm another, or the way we help might clash with ethics. It's like a manager who tries to help an underperforming employee by giving them easier tasks. This lowers the overall team standards and creates resentment among high-performing employees who have to pick up the slack. Another example of this kind of ethic clash is when a well-meaning charity donates clothes to a community in a developing country. Local tailors and clothing businesses suffer as a result, losing their income and means of livelihood. Or, in a much more wicked sense, think of parents who help one child financially at the expense of another, creating tension and feelings of favoritism within the family and potentially enabling dependency. That's how you groom sociopaths and serial killers, no? Now, Cicero's 4 roles highlight the conflict between personal growth and social duty. Career goals might hurt relationships or community. Helping others can make you neglect personal or family duties, leading to a disjointed life. Since we've mentioned that the desire to help ties to living virtuously, this can become pushy if someone thinks their virtuous life is superior, leading to imposing beliefs on others and disrespecting their autonomy and culture. And since Stoics often think in terms of how nature benefits humans, such a view can limit true environmental action. If you only care about nature because it helps us, you might miss the point. Nature has value on its own, and we need to act on that. And if you think Stoic harmony with nature means radical action, you might justify extreme behavior. This can lead to moral absolutism, where you think the ends justify the means. It can harm others who don't share your views. A good example of this is a so-called philanthropist who satisfies their egos by donating large sums to environmental causes, believing it aligns with nature and benefits humanity, and so on. However, they prioritize projects that provide publicity for the company rather than those with the most significant environmental impact. We see it every day with all those big corporations. This approach undermines genuine environmental efforts, focusing more on the company's image than on true environmental preservation. In fact, in a lot of cases, the environment would be better off if these attention-seeking philanthropists stayed away altogether. Or think about those obsessive environmentalists who push everyone to ban single-use plastics and whatnot, convinced it's for the greater good. They force neighbors to follow strict recycling rules and support a global plastic ban. This sounds noble, right? Wrong. They ignore the fact that not everyone can adapt easily. They also ignore the fact that some people simply don't want to. We're all free to think, feel, say, and do whatever we want in life, and under no circumstances should anyone have the right to tell anyone how to live their life, not even governments. In developing countries, for instance, people rely on cheap plastics for basic needs, and forcing a ban causes economic chaos. Locally, their pushy attitude strains relationships, making neighbors resentful and isolated. Instead of helping, their harsh approach creates division and hardship. So, you see, this is the dark side of helping others as a Stoic. Good intentions turning into self-righteous harm. Nevertheless, balancing internal harmony with external action is tough. Personal sacrifices for environmental causes can hurt your well-being or relationships. You might struggle between personal happiness and environmental virtue, especially when society doesn't support your efforts. Furthermore, Stoic interconnectedness makes decision-making tricky. You need to think about how your actions affect the world, your choices on what you buy, how you use energy, and what you support matter for future generations. But you can't force yourself to do things that make you unhappy. Do what makes you happy is great advice. This can be paralyzing, especially when outcomes are uncertain or society's actions go against yours. Also, you should always keep in mind that you can never please everyone at the same time. For instance, choosing sustainable options, like a local vacation, may fit Stoic virtues. However, this can clash with family or friends who want something different. This can strain relationships. Acting justly on a global scale might seem unfair to those close to you if you ignore their wishes and feelings. At the same time, just because you find good or bad in one thing doesn't mean the other person believes so. You must respect their opinion on all matters to avoid unnecessary clashes. And as mentioned earlier, if you insist on having everything go your way, then you would be creating a sense of moral superiority. You will feel better than others who don't share your values. This can lead to social isolation, withdrawing from those who don't understand or agree with your strict ethics. This isolation goes against Stoic ideals of community and shared humanity. Indeed, sticking strictly to Stoic principles can affect your happiness and freedom. Focusing on certain virtues might make you pass up opportunities that are personally fulfilling. This strict devotion can limit personal exploration and spontaneous joy, which are important for a fulfilling life, even if they aren't strictly virtuous in Stoic terms. But enough of that for now. Let us go deeper into the subject of Stoic ethics. You see, a rational person should perform appropriate acts guided by reason. For instance, maintaining health is good because reason supports it, but it's not inherently good or bad. Actions should align with all virtues. Sometimes even giving up property can be appropriate if reason justifies it. And most people aren't fully virtuous. They might act rightly in some ways, like honoring parents, but fail in others. Actions range from bad to perfect. Bad actions can include neglecting parents, mistreating friends, wasting wealth, and so on. Intermediate actions include honoring parents or sacrificing wealth, but not with a fully virtuous mindset. Now, the perfect actions are done with complete rationality and consistency. So, helping others must fit within this framework. If helping disrupts your rational peace or other duties, it's not virtuous. Weigh the act's impact on your overall harmony. Prioritize your virtue and inner peace above all. A rational person knows it's good to help a friend in need, but if giving money puts them in debt or causes financial stress, it's not a wise move. Helping should align with reason. It's not fundamentally good or bad to give money. The context matters. The same goes when you offer advice that can help others. If the advice isn't well thought out and causes more harm than good, then it's not appropriate. A rational person would give advice that's well considered and truly helpful. And let's say you're encouraging a family member to follow their dreams. Now, this is generally good. However, if supporting their dream involves lying or breaking laws, then it's not aligned with virtues. Rational support respects moral boundaries. Likewise, defending a friend is noble. But if it means getting involved in unnecessary conflicts or lying to cover for them, it's not aligned with reason. Your defense of them should be truthful and justifiable. So, you get the point. Only virtue is good and worth choosing. Only vice is bad and should be avoided. Most people don't get this. They wrongly judge things as good or bad that are actually indifferent. This wrong judgment leads to passions, emotional disturbances contrary to reason and nature. Now, there are 4 main passions: distress, fear, appetite, and pleasure. Distress and pleasure relate to present things. Fear and appetite relate to future things. Distress includes grief, worry, and sorrow. Fear includes panic and terror. Appetite includes anger and intense desire. Pleasure includes self-gratification and rejoicing at others' misfortunes. A virtuous person, on the other hand, has 3 good states: joy, caution, and wish. Joy is a reasonable happiness, including good spirits and tranquility. Caution is reasonable avoidance, including respect. Wish is reasonable striving, including goodwill and acceptance. For example, a virtuous person enjoys a friend's company, but knows it's not a real good-like virtue. If seeing the friend means neglecting duties, it's avoided. The friend's absence doesn't harm the soul, only vice does. The vicious person is gripped by pleasure in riches. Losing wealth leads to misery because of wrong judgments about poverty. The virtuous person wishes to see his friend only if it's good to happen, accepting fate. If it doesn't happen, he isn't unhappy. His wish is rational and in accordance with nature. The virtuous person isn't unfeeling. He knows what affects happiness and what doesn't. This understanding keeps life's ups and downs from causing emotional disturbances. And with this thought in mind, we find ourselves challenging the assumption of helping. Since Stoics value self-reliance, doing things for others can restrain their growth. If you do someone's work, they miss out on learning and growing. Let them struggle and learn. This builds their resilience and wisdom. Autonomy and self-discipline are key. Constantly helping someone financially or otherwise makes them dependent. This prevents them from finding their own solutions and becoming self-sufficient. It can hurt their self-worth and independence. Let's say you have a job interview. Instead of preparing for it on your own, your friend writes your resume for you and coaches you on exactly what to say. When you go to the interview, you'll end up not getting the job because you couldn't answer the interviewer's questions well. If you had prepared yourself, you might have done better and learned from the experience. Similarly, let's say you were a student and you're struggling with math or calculus. Your older sibling, instead of teaching you, does your homework for you. Now, you may get good grades, but you won't understand the material. When the exam comes, you'll fail because you never learned how to solve the problems on your own. So, you must understand before acting. Helping without knowing the full situation can cause harm. For example, unsolicited advice to someone grieving might make things worse. True help requires empathy and understanding, not imposing our own solutions. Besides, unwanted help can lead to resentment. It can make people feel incapable or belittled. As we mentioned before, you must always respect others' autonomy. Micromanaging an employee, for instance, can demoralize them and damage relationships. Help should empower, not undermine. You must also recognize and respect individual differences. whatever these differences may be. Help that seems kind in one culture might be intrusive in another. Be aware of these differences and avoid imposing your own values. True help is sensitive and respectful. For instance, in some cultures, giving gifts is a sign of friendship and respect, but in others, it might be seen as a bribe or an obligation. If you give a gift without understanding this, you could offend someone instead of helping them. And in some places, being close and touchy shows you care. In others, it can feel invasive and uncomfortable. To give you a clearer picture, in the US, maintaining eye contact shows you're paying attention and being honest. But in Japan, too much eye contact can be seen as rude or aggressive. What seems respectful in one culture can be uncomfortable in another. Similarly, do not smile randomly if you're ever in Russia. It's worth noting again that too much intervention from the helping side prevents the other side from learning important lessons. Overprotective parenting, for instance, can shelter children too much, leaving them unprepared for adversity. Stoics believe in facing challenges to gain wisdom. Let others grow by facing their own trials. And just like the older sibling who helps with math homework, if parents always do their kids' homework, the kids never learn how to solve problems on their own. When the kids face real-life challenges, they won't know what to do. Stoics say facing hard stuff makes you smarter and stronger. They're not wrong. The same goes if you always bail out a friend in trouble, they might never learn to fix their own issues. This keeps them dependent and unable to grow. In this Stoic sense, the helper is almost as harmful as a heroin dealer because you're enabling the other person from seeking your help every time they need it. Another thing we should talk more about is the fact that constantly helping others can exhaust you emotionally and physically. Stoics value inner tranquility. Caregiving can lead to burnout, making you less effective. Set boundaries to protect your mental and emotional health while helping others. To give you an example or two of what we're referring to, let's say you're looking after your elderly parent who needs constant care and you can't afford paid help. The result? You're always tired and stressed, and you feel like you're losing yourself. You must set boundaries. Find small ways to take breaks. Ask other family members for help, even if it's just for an hour. Joining support groups can provide emotional relief and practical advice. Balancing caregiving with self-care is key to maintaining your mental health. In the workplace, we all know how it goes when there's that one person everyone relies on for help because they're reliable. But do these people ever think about the person themselves? Their own tasks pile up, and they likely get stressed out trying to do it all. Being overly helpful overwhelms them. It's essential to say no sometimes to maintain one's own productivity and peace. The same goes if you're involved in organizing events and helping out in your community non-stop, or if your neighbor always asks for help with their yard and you never say no. Overcommitting can exhaust you. Choose your commitments wisely to keep your own inner peace intact. Once again, prioritize your own tasks and set boundaries to avoid feeling burdened. It's okay to limit how much you help. We said it before, and we'll say it again. Regular help can create dependency and expectations. Friends always expecting you to pay can strain relationships and finances. You don't want that. You should not want that. Stoics promote mutual respect and independence, and that's how you should abide by. Perhaps we've challenged the assumption of helping more than enough for now. Let's talk about Stoicism and compassion, a false contradiction. Helping others sounds noble, doesn't it? There's one problem, though. It can backfire. In some cases, it can backfire really bad. Marcus Aurelius talked about being part of a bigger whole, acting for the common good. Yet, helping can go wrong when it harms you or makes others dependent, just like we talked about earlier. And since helping too much can weaken people, this tends to weaken society, contrary to Stoic values. When family members and friends continually bail out a loved one with addiction issues, providing money, or covering up their mistakes, the addict has no reason to face their problem or seek recovery. This keeps them trapped in their addiction, harming both the individual and the family. When the government steps in to solve every little problem, people start relying on state support instead of taking personal responsibility. Let's look at Canada. Some immigrants don't work but have many children because the government gives them monthly welfare for every kid. This setup makes people dependent on handouts instead of working hard. Now, here's the problem. Hard-working folks are paying the taxes that fund this welfare. They're busting their butts to earn a living while others sit back and collect checks. This isn't fair, it is not reasonable, and it certainly is not the Stoic way. It creates a system where some people feel entitled to benefits without contributing. Since Stoic values emphasize personal strength and resilience, this welfare system does the opposite. It promotes laziness and dependency, weakening the society as a whole. People should be encouraged to work hard and solve their own problems, not rely on government aid. In the long run, this reliance on welfare hurts everyone. It discourages initiative and self-reliance, leading to a weaker, less capable society. We need to rethink these policies to ensure everyone pulls their weight and contributes to a stronger, more resilient community. Furthermore, you can't ignore your own needs. Just like we talked about earlier, since Stoicism stresses self-care and virtue, overextending yourself leads to burnout and resentment. Like a social worker neglecting their own mental health, you become ineffective, harming yourself and those you help. Keep your well-being in check to help effectively. Not all help is good. We talked about misguided help before, but let's dig deeper into the subject matter by showing you certain kinds of help can prove to be more of a poison than an antidote, either to you or the other person, or to both ends of the rope. Because after all, sometimes it harms. Giving money to an addict, for instance, can fuel their addiction, no matter how much they beg or try to convince you that they'll use the money for food. Stoicism urges wise actions. Think before helping to ensure it truly benefits others and the community. Now, let's say you've got a brother who's jobless. He's lounging around and living off your dime. Every time you bail him out, you're just encouraging his laziness. He's got no incentive to stand on his own 2 feet. By constantly helping him, you're digging him deeper into the pit of dependency. Stoicism says, think twice before you help. Sometimes the best help is tough love. Tough love did more good than harm in the past, so it won't fail anyone if it's applied. In another case, let's say your friend is in a toxic relationship and he or she is always coming to you for support. You lend an ear, give advice, maybe even a place to crash when they fight, but they keep going back, just like the drug addict who keeps coming back for more. Your support makes them think it's okay to stay in that cycle. Stoicism teaches us to act with reason. Sometimes, stepping back is the best way to help someone realize they need to change. In yet another case, let's say your friend's got a failing business and you keep pouring money into it. Each time, your friend promises this time it'll turn around, but it doesn't. They're living in this state of denial where they can't see the reality of the situation. In this case, your help isn't saving his business, it's just prolonging the inevitable. Stoicism urges us to see things as they are, not as we wish them to be. Helping here might just be dragging out the pain. The best thing for you to do in this case would be to break it down for them. Expose the reality to them. If they don't wake up and smell the coffee, then it's all on them. You did your part, and now it's time to move on. And since we talked a bit before about setting unrealistic expectations and such, let's discuss how frustration and strained relationships occur when you can't meet the needs of those who rely on you for help. We've all been there. You pour your life out to help them, and when you refuse for once, they paint you as the bad guy, the monster. Well, what about all those times you helped them? Once again, set boundaries to avoid exploitation. Indeed, we've all been there. We've all seen that happen in our lives. We've all come across the situation when you are always there for others, providing emotional support and financial aid, and then one day you decide to focus on your own problems for once. Your other friends accuse you of abandoning them. This betrayal causes friendships to crumble, proving that people often take continuous help for granted. For all it's worth, these kinds of people are leeches, vampires, bloodsuckers. They drain you of your energy, your time, your money, your mental health. You're better off without them. Think of it this way: there are 8 billion other people in the world, so you're not at a loss here. This is also true in marriage. For instance, let's say a spouse who has always managed household duties and supported their partner's career ambitions decides to pursue their own dreams. Their partner views this as abandonment, causing friction and resentment. Years of support are forgotten, emphasizing how one-sided expectations can ruin relationships. And just so you know, this goes both ways. Imagine a husband who expects his wife to forever do all the house chores without complaint. One day, she decides she wants more from life, maybe a career or hobby. The husband feels betrayed, thinking she's abandoning her duties and so on. He forgets all the years she spent doing that without focusing on her life at all, causing major resentment. On the flip side, think of a wife who doesn't let her husband take business risks. He wants to get them out of the rat race and into a promising financial future, but she's scared. She restricts him, and he feels trapped and unsupported. He remembers all the times he stuck by her side, and now he's furious she won't do the same. Let's dive deeper into a larger scale example: international aid. While aid aims to help, it often reveals a darker side, encouraging corruption and dependency in recipient countries. Instead of promoting growth, it creates a reliance on external help, damaging local economies and governance. Aid receivers become like puppies waiting for food to be poured into their bowls. They grow used to the handouts, losing the drive to fend for themselves. On the other hand, let's peel back another layer of controversy. Neocolonial governments play a wicked role in this system. These powerful nations use aid as a tool to keep poorer countries subjugated. By enforcing systemic poverty, they ensure the masses remain controlled and dependent. Meanwhile, the natural resources of these impoverished countries flow straight into the colonizers' pockets, facilitated by so-called presidents, who are nothing more than puppets who sit on the golden chair for a few pennies. Puppets who would sell their own loved ones to sit on the golden chair of rulership. These so-called leaders, stationed by the neo-colonial powers, maintain the status quo, ensuring the cycle of dependency and exploitation continues. Then there's the risk of losing yourself if you keep helping others. Constant self-sacrifice erodes personal goals and identity. You might suppress your desires, leading to an unfulfilled life. Stoicism values duty, but also self-fulfillment. For instance, let's say you run a small business. You're always the nice boss, helping your employees with their personal problems. You lend them money, ignore company rules to give them a break. Then, one day, one of those employees sues you. They say you played favorites and broke contracts. Suddenly, you're not just the nice boss anymore. You're in a legal mess, bleeding money, and watching your business reputation go down the drain. Your good intentions just bit you in the arse. It's in certain cases such as these that you'd wish you were a Stoic. This also takes us back to our college days, or even adulthood, when we've always had an open-door policy at home. Friends need a place to crash? Sure, come on in. Over the years, your house turns into a free motel. People come and go, and no one ever helps out. They raid your fridge, and your bathroom's hygiene hits rock bottom. Your house, your sanctuary, becomes a wreck. No peace, no privacy. The place you loved is now a chaotic hellhole, all because you couldn't say no. But it gets worse. Some of them will even question your loyalty when you stop buying groceries or ordering food for everyone. They act like your home is a homeless shelter and that food should magically appear on time. Talk about high dependence. And then there's you, the talented artist or craftsman. You gave up your dreams to take a corporate job just to support your siblings through college. You thought, it's just for a while. But years fly by. Your artistic skills rust away. Your siblings succeed, living their best lives thanks to your sacrifices. And you're stuck in a soul-sucking job, your dreams dead and buried, with no time or energy to pick up a paintbrush or bookbinding tools again. Your self-sacrifice cost you your passion, leaving you in a life you never wanted. Once again, constantly solving others' problems can prevent them from growing. Even worse, it will prevent you from growing. They stay helpless, contradicting Stoic ideals of self-reliance and resilience. Teach them to handle their challenges instead. If not, let them know right away that you've got bigger concerns to take care of. You. There's a reason why many Americans always look out for number one. If you keep being their crutch, they'll never learn to walk. It's like constantly doing push-ups for someone else and then wondering why you've got the muscle mass of a soggy noodle while they remain couch potatoes. It's not selfish to prioritize yourself. It's smart. Remember, if you're always the hero in their story, you'll end up the villain in your own. It's one or the other. Choose wisely. There's a reason why many top doctors ditch the public sector and set up their own clinics. They want more appreciation and reward, and they actually get it. In public hospitals, doctors and nurses slave away, often facing burnout and mental health crises. Despite their important roles, they feel undervalued and wiped out. But with private clinics, they call the shots. They pick their patients and decide how to treat them, all on their own terms. Now, empathy is a foundation of Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius hammered on it, but let's say it again. Too much empathy can wreck you. Absorbing everyone's pain leads to emotional burnout and compassion fatigue, messing up your peace of mind. And since Stoicism values inner peace, getting too involved in others' issues disrupts your tranquility. Their instability affects your calm. Maintain your peace by knowing when to step back. Know when to say no. Now, let's say your neighbor, Mrs. Gossip, loves dragging you into her petty feuds with everyone on the block. One day, it's about someone's dog pooping on her lawn. The next, it's about loud music. You're stuck playing referee. Newsflash. You're not Judge Judy. Your peace is more valuable than her drama. You can tell Mrs. Gossip to buzz off. Her battles are her problem, not yours. But it's not just the neighbors dragging you into drama. Let's talk about the digital battlefield, social media. You're always jumping into online arguments, defending friends or trying to win debates. Seriously, arguing with strangers over cat videos or politics. It's a total and complete waste of time. It's a waste of life. Stoicism says, disengage, scroll past the nonsense, or better yet, don't scroll at all. Your tranquility is worth more than some internet troll's approval. Let them shout into the void. You've got better things to do. Life is passing by every second. A second wasted is a second lost. And here's something else you need to hear. Helping others, whether it's for gratitude or recognition, shifts your focus from inner peace to chasing approval. This flies in the face of Stoic principles, which teach that true contentment comes from within. If your self-worth depends on others' appreciation, you're setting yourself up for failure. Suppose the people whose approval you hunger after drop dead tomorrow. What then? You've wasted your life chasing validation from a corpse. What good does that do for you now? We've all been that friend who listens, who supports, who helps move houses and lends money. You never ask for anything in return, thinking this will make you valuable. But when you need help, your friends are too busy or uninterested. They've taken your help for granted, and now you see they never truly valued you. You've wasted your time trying to be a friend to people who didn't care. Once again, you should always remember that focusing too much on helping others can lead to misplaced priorities. And to get into a bit of virtuosity, Stoicism teaches us to grow and develop our virtues before trying to reform others. If we preach financial prudence but struggle with debt ourselves, we risk being hypocritical and ineffective. Think about the pastor or priest who yells about sobriety while sneaking whiskey shots in the church house. Or imagine a politician talking about family values while cozying up with his or her mistress. Or think about a fitness guru preaching healthy living but binging on Twinkies after dark. These hypocrites are laughable. They're a ticking time bomb of scandal, ready to explode and expose their dirty little secrets, shattering trust and dragging down everyone who believed their lies. Don't be like them. Be virtuous. Be the master at what you do before you preach it to others. Be genuine. Be real. That's the Stoic way. And now that we've talked a great deal about Stoicism, compassion, and all the contradictions that come with helping others in this regard, let's move on to the issue of when helping gets messy. Helping others can get messy when you think you know what's best for them. This can make you come off as arrogant. You end up disrespecting the other person's independence and show an inflated ego. You believe you know better, ignoring the other person's unique situation. Now, you might think your good intentions and experience make you the best guide. But this can blind you to the complexities of the other person's life. Assuming one solution fits all is a major flaw. Let's paint you a clearer picture of how helping can turn into a mess really quick. First up, there's your colleague who's all lost about their career. You, on the other hand, have got a stellar career, so you figure they should just copy you. You tell them to take the same risks, make the same choices. But here's the thing. They aren't you. Different strengths, different dreams, different life. You're basically saying, hey, my way or the highway, which makes you look like a pompous jerk, ignoring their unique potential. To take it up a notch, let's say one of your dearest friends just lost someone close. You've been through loss yourself, so you start spouting off your grieving process, telling them how to handle it. Grief's personal, though. It's different for everyone. For some, it ends quickly, and for others, their grieving process takes time. By pushing your way, not only are you not helping, but you're being a heartless know-it-all, ignoring their pain and their way of coping. And speaking of religion, let's say you've found your spiritual bliss and see your friends struggling with their faith. Perhaps they're atheists. Naturally, you shove your beliefs down their throat, thinking it'll save them. But spirituality is as personal as underwear. Every person finds their own light in their own tunnel at their own time. Your pushiness makes you look like a disrespectful zealot, trampling over their spiritual journey. See the pattern? Sometimes, helping can be more about you than the person you're trying to help. So, check that ego at the door, fellow Stoics. Also, sometimes the person you're helping might feel belittled or resentful. Your imposed solutions can make them feel disempowered. They might see your help as a threat to their autonomy, leading to dependency instead of growth. Now, since we've talked about avoiding helping others due to dependency issues, let's discuss them refusing your help because they don't want to be dependent on you. That's a good thing. Wouldn't we all prefer to have a friend or family member who thinks that way instead of leeching off us? First of all, from a Stoic perspective, thinking you know what's best shows a misunderstanding of true help and compassion. We talked about this before. Stoicism teaches that real help empowers others to find their own way. Stoics value autonomy, believing each person must find their own path to virtue and peace. Epictetus, who was formerly a slave before he turned into a Stoic philosopher, also stressed the importance of respecting others' autonomy. He taught that we should focus on our own virtues rather than trying to control others. Imposing your will on someone else contradicts the Stoic principle of respecting the natural order and individual reasoning. Moral arrogance damages relationships and erodes trust. Your perceived superiority can alienate the very people you aim to help, leading to a breakdown in communication and respect. This makes your help ineffective and goes against the Stoic ideal of harmonious and respectful interactions. Like shoving religion down someone's throat, preaching your moral beliefs at family gatherings and looking down on those who don't agree creates fallings out. Your once close cousin now avoids you, feeling judged and disrespected. Your help gets buried under your moral arrogance. It's the same with friends. You criticize their choices, showing off your own as superior. This erodes trust and mutual respect. Friends start distancing themselves, feeling judged rather than supported. Your relationships deteriorate and your attempts to help fall on deaf ears. And at work, you constantly remind colleagues how ethical you are, deviously implying they're not. This condescension breeds resentment, dividing a once cohesive team. Co-workers become reluctant to collaborate with you. Your moral high ground isolates you, making your help irrelevant and unwelcome. Who knows, maybe they'll even start gossiping about you behind your back. So, you see, the issue here is that helping can sometimes turn into controlling. You've got to balance the Stoic value of autonomy with the paternalistic nature of offered help. Even with good intentions, help can lead to bad outcomes. Helpers see offering assistance as a moral duty or an act of compassion. They think their guidance can improve the recipient's situation, especially if they see the recipient as lacking knowledge, resources, or judgment. This genuine desire to help can turn into paternalism, where the helper takes over the recipient's life. But what about the Stoic principle of acknowledging that you know nothing? By assuming you know all about that person's necessities, you're arrogantly forsaking a core Stoic belief, acknowledging that you know nothing. Since the person being helped might feel controlled or patronized, they might think their ability to make decisions is being ignored. Worse, they might think you believe they are incapable of making decisions or performing a task. This can lead to resistance, resentment, and a feeling of helplessness. Even well-meant help can feel like an intrusion if it doesn't respect their independence. In some cases, it can backfire pretty hard on you. Let's go back to the spouse scenario and talk about the husband who always handles the money without asking his wife. He thinks he's helping, but she's no fool. She feels belittled and angry, like he thinks she's too dumb to handle cash. This creates fights, kills respect, and turns love into a battlefield. The wife will work behind his back to get back at him. You wouldn't want that now, do you? Now picture a manager who micromanages everything an employee does. The employee gets so fed up, they start messing up projects on purpose, leaking secrets, and spreading rumors. The manager ends up looking like a clown while the employee's career soars. The exact same thing happens in politics. We've all seen it loud and clear. A politician who ignores their strategist's advice, and in turn, the strategist, feeling patronized, leaks info to the opposition and gives bad counsel. The politician's career sinks as the strategist teams up with a rival, leading to a spectacular political downfall. Then there's the professor who treats a research assistant like a glorified errand runner. The assistant, insulted and bitter, starts fudging data in the professor's work while excelling in their own research. The professor's credibility crashes while the assistant rises to fame. The same thing happens in the tech startup scene. Founders with their super-inflated egos often ignore a talented developer's ideas. The developer, feeling disrespected, plants bugs in the software while perfecting their own project, or worse, sells it to a competitor. In the case that the developer doesn't sell, the founder's product flops, while the developer's success attracts investors, leaving the founder in the dust. Observers see both sides. They understand the helper's intentions and the recipient's need for autonomy. They recognize the challenge of balancing support with respect for independence. Stoics believe wisdom lies in respecting others' ability to make their own decisions. Epictetus taught that everyone has the capacity for reason and should be encouraged to understand what is good and just. So, offer guidance without controlling. Stoic compassion promotes independence, not dependency. Help should include giving tools and resources, allowing others to thrive on their own, not using those tools and resources to do the work and thinking for them. At the same time, this giving of tools and resources should happen only once. Don't make a habit of giving too much, because then you touch on the waters of them depending on handouts. Life doesn't give handouts. You've got to work for what you want. Some folks help others because it strokes their ego, making them feel important. This rescuer complex is all about their need to feel needed. On the surface, it looks like kindness, but deep down, it's about them. This can spiral into controlling behavior and toxic relationships. While it's close to seeking external validation, it's not quite the same. External validation is seeking approval and recognition from others. The rescuer complex, however, is when you're trying to become the savior. Not only are you seeking likes and praises, but you're in desperate need to feel indispensable. These people derive their self-worth from being the fixer, the go-to person, the hero. In many cases, these people sabotage others to gain attention and to take credit for others' efforts. Let's paint a clearer picture for you. Imagine a co-worker who always jumps in to help on projects, but it's all a plot, a trick. They take over, make decisions, and then take all the credit. They want the bosses to see them as the golden star of the office. This creates major tension and frustration among colleagues who feel their hard work is being stolen and overshadowed. This person cares little about teamwork. They're all about personal glory, leaving everyone else feeling undervalued and overlooked. In reality, this type of person ought to be picked up and dumped outside the office. Then there's the mother who sabotages her son's relationships, making him feel like no girl is ever good enough for him. She does this not just out of love, but because she craves his attention and wants to be the primary woman in his life. Now, this has nothing to do with her approval. This is who she is. This is her actual identity. She feels worthless unless she's the central figure in his life, ensuring he remains dependent on her. This meddling keeps him single and miserable, unable to form healthy relationships or grow into his own person. Now, since external validation is about seeking approval and recognition from others, this mother, however, is not just looking for her son's gratitude. She needs to be the most important woman in his life, deriving her self-worth from his dependency. Her identity is tied to being his protector, his go-to person, his everything. This is far more insidious than simply wanting a pat on the back. In doing so, the mother constantly criticizes every potential partner her son brings home, finding flaws and sowing doubts. She manipulates situations to create friction, ensuring no relationship lasts. Her son starts believing no woman can meet his mother's impossible standards, making him reluctant to pursue any serious relationship. Even worse, she often plays the victim, guilt-tripping her son by saying things like, "I've sacrificed everything for you, and now you're leaving me?" This emotional blackmail keeps him attached to her, afraid to seek his own happiness. Moreover, she insists on doing everything for him, from cooking meals to handling his laundry, under the guise of care. This makes him reliant on her for even the most basic tasks, reinforcing her role as the indispensable woman in his life. The only thing missing is for her to suckle him as she did when he was a baby. The things these types of mothers do are insane. She will find ways to interrupt his dates, showing up unannounced or calling him repeatedly with emergencies. Her son, feeling obligated, would rush to her side, leaving his date feeling neglected and unimportant. And she would often undermine his confidence by constantly questioning his choices, whether it's his career, his friends, or his hobbies. This makes him doubt his ability to make decisions, reinforcing his dependency on her judgment. It keeps getting worse. She would eventually discourage him from forming close friendships or engaging in social activities that don't include her. By isolating him, she ensures she remains his primary source of emotional support and companionship. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a classic mama's boy. Now, people watching from the outside can see the unhealthy dynamics. They notice how the rescuer's neediness leads to manipulative behavior and doesn't offer real support. They also see how the recipient loses their sense of self-reliance and agency. Once again, from a Stoic view, the rescuer complex goes against the core values of autonomy and self-reliance. Stoics believe in empowering others to develop their own virtues and make their own decisions. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, stressed the importance of focusing on what you can control and not overstepping into others' lives. True Stoic help means guiding others to be independent and self-governing. And since we talked about when the rescuer complex leads to manipulation disguised as good intentions, manipulation can also involve guilt tripping. Rescuers make recipients feel guilty for not accepting help or for trying to be independent. This creates a power imbalance, making the recipient feel beholden and unable to make free decisions. This brings us back to the loving mother. She insists on paying her 45-year-old son's bills, even though he has a stable job. When he tries to decline, she guilt trips him, saying, "After all I've done for you, you can't even let me help." This makes him feel ungrateful and trapped, unable to make his own financial decisions. Likewise, when a wealthy sibling offers to pay for another sibling's medical expenses, but demands they move closer and live by their rules, this is when tensions occur. If the sibling hesitates, the wealthy one says, "You owe me this." This guilt trips them into sacrificing their independence and freedom for financial help. Similarly, we see this happening around the world every day when an NGO provides aid to a struggling village but imposes strict rules on how the villagers must live. When villagers resist, the NGO says, "Rejecting our help means you don't care about your community's future." This manipulates the villagers into compliance, making them feel guilty for wanting to maintain their way of life. This also brings us back to the issue of the neo-colonizer. Modern-day colonizing countries enforce such guilt trips to have it their way. They provide financial aid or development projects, but attach conditions that benefit them more than the recipient country. When the recipient country hesitates or resists these terms, the colonizing country says, "We're offering you progress and stability." This tactic manipulates the recipient country into compliance, sacrificing their autonomy and long-term interests for short-term relief. There's also another form of misguided help that happens to many of us regularly. Let's call it the white knight scam. Now, the white knight scam differs from the rescuer complex, which we talked about earlier. The rescuer complex is about feeding one's ego and feeling indispensable. The white knight scam, on the other hand, is about projecting personal insecurities onto others and using them to address one's own emotional issues. While the rescuer complex seeks to control and feel needed, the white knight scam involves misguided assistance that is more about the rescuer's self-healing, often causing more harm than good. You should also be aware that this white knight scam is a different beast from guilt tripping. Instead of guilt tripping, these so-called helpers are really just trying to fix themselves. They look like they're doing good, but they're just using others as their therapy. Here's how it works. A white knight sees someone struggling and jumps in to save the day, not because they care, but because they need to feel important. They say things like, "You need me to solve your problems," but really, they need to solve their own. At the end of the day, their help is all about making themselves feel better. For example, a guy sees a woman having car trouble. He insists on helping, even when she says she's got it covered. He doesn't take no for an answer, because if he doesn't help, he feels useless. He won't feel like a man. In other cases, he ignorantly assumes that the woman doesn't know how to handle her stuff because it's a manly thing to do. So, in this case, he's not helping her. He's helping himself feel valuable. Another case is when religious leaders force their advice on a follower, pretending it's for their spiritual good. They say, "You're lost, let me guide you." The follower might not feel lost, but now they're doubting themselves and blindly following the leader's path, which might not be right for them. The leader cares more about expanding their influence than truly helping the follower. This is exactly how cult recruitment happens. Similarly, we see this happening every day in gyms. A fitness coach takes over every part of a client's health routine, claiming they know best about diet, exercise, and lifestyle. The coach says, "You need my expertise to succeed. I know what's good for you, you don't." The client feels stripped of their own ability to make health decisions and becomes overly dependent on the coach, who just enjoys the control and validation. So, as you see, this white knight scam is pretty harmful because it creates another form of dependency. People being helped might start to believe they can't handle things on their own. It also breeds resentment because deep down they know they're just props in someone else's feel-good story. So, while guilt-tripping manipulates others by making them feel bad, the white knight scam manipulates by pretending to help, but really just feeds the rescuer's ego. Both are forms of misguided help, but with very different motivations and impacts. Now, from the rescuer's view, their actions seem noble and selfless. They believe they're meeting the recipient's needs, not realizing their motivations are driven by their insecurities. The desire to be seen as a hero can mask issues like low self-worth or unresolved trauma, leading them to offer help that fulfills their emotional needs rather than truly supporting the recipient. Once again, you should remember that Stoicism teaches you to focus on your own problems before trying to help others. Even Epictetus said, "You need to work on your own development and understand your motivations first." This helps you avoid the traps of misguided help. You should also keep in mind what Marcus Aurelius, in Meditations, emphasized when he urged us to self-examine and act with integrity and purpose. And with that being said, let's talk about the exploitation of the virtue of justice. Stoicism stresses justice and fairness, but what happens when this sense of duty is exploited? Let's take healthcare and talk about doctors and drug companies, for instance. A doctor wants to help patients, but drug companies push them to prescribe pricey meds like OxyContin. These pills were marketed as a miracle cure, but they led to addiction and ruined lives. The doctors' good intentions got twisted by Big Pharma's greed. They ended up hurting people instead of helping. Oxy is a prime example. Purdue Pharma sold it hard, claiming it was safe. Docs believed them, wanting to ease pain, but it turned into a nightmare. Patients got hooked, and the so-called help turned deadly. Now, we're not only talking about this one drug. It happened with other meds too, where drug companies pushed for profit and doctors fell into the trap, thinking they were doing good. The Stoic point: Even with good intentions, external pressures can corrupt. The desire to help can lead to harm when manipulation and greed get involved. This shows the dark side of trying to help. It can end up causing more pain. Let's dig into the dirty world of lawyers and how helping can turn dark. Think about a mafia lawyer. They defend mob bosses, knowing they're guilty. They're helping their client, but at what cost? They twist justice, protect criminals, and let them continue their reign of terror. The lawyer's duty to defend clashes with any sense of personal ethics. Or look at big pharma lawyers. They defended big drug companies like Purdue Pharma during the OxyContin scandal. Lawyers help these low-life companies dodge accountability, bury evidence, and avoid paying for the damage they've done. They help their clients, but screw over the victims, letting the cycle of addiction and death continue. Then there's the short seller's lawyer. They help hedge funds manipulate the market, betting on good, hard-working companies to fail. They find legal loopholes to profit from others' losses. They're helping their clients get rich, but they ruin businesses and livelihoods in the process. These lawyers face ethical dilemmas every day. They provide the best defense, often for the worst people. Their professional duty to help their clients' conflicts with personal integrity and justice. Stoicism teaches justice and integrity, but these lawyers show how helping can lead to moral corruption. Their help bends the rules, breaks the rules, and proves that good intentions can pave the way to hell. And while we're on the subject of ethics and jobs, let's look at journalists. They expose scandals, but love sensationalism, causing chaos and distrust. Then there are cops. They can use force and even kill civilians, but if a civilian does that to a cop, they get nailed hard. And what about therapists? They help by feeding into clients' victim mentality, stalling their growth. Therapy is a racket, plain and simple, a legal racket. Therapists ask how you feel about this or that and charge a fortune. Where's the ethics in that? Financial advisors are no better. They push high-commission products, putting their wallets ahead of their clients' best interests. And don't get us started on social media influencers, some of the biggest lowlifes out there. They torch the world for content, pushing dangerous or useless junk just to make a buck. Ethics? Yeah, right. Then there's the issue of whistleblowers in corrupt organizations. Now, they might struggle between exposing wrongdoing and protecting colleagues or their career. This ethical dilemma shows how helping can clash with personal values and cause distress. And speaking of companies, corporations often engage in CSR to enhance their image. These actions can be superficial, aimed at deflecting criticism rather than addressing core ethical issues. This mask of helping clashes directly with genuine Stoic justice, which demands sincere and impactful efforts. Now, let's dive even deeper to see how the different ways in which helping others can go horribly wrong. Get ready, because next up is the darkest downside of helping too much. So you think you're doing good by stepping in and fixing things, right? Well, you see, Stoic virtues like justice and courage can sometimes cause unintended harm. Take vigilantism, for example. A person, driven by justice, starts punishing those they see as criminals. What happens is that innocent people get hurt, trust in the legal system falls apart, and social order breaks down. Now, let's say you and your neighbors form a watch group to patrol the streets at night. You think you're the guardians of the community, but you start harassing anyone who looks suspicious. One night, you corner a man walking home from work because he's not familiar. Turns out he's new to the area. Now he feels targeted and unsafe. Your vigilantism makes the neighborhood feel more dangerous, not safer. And on the same night, you catch some kids spray painting a wall. You're fueled by a sense of justice and decide to play hero. You confront the kid, things get heated, and you end up roughing him up a bit. Turns out, the kid was painting a mural for a school project. Now, you're facing assault charges and the neighborhood thinks you're a lunatic. Trust in the system drops because people think the cops aren't doing their job. Nice going, hero. Let's give you another example. Say you're in your office and you notice some colleagues slacking off. You take it upon yourself to fix this by publicly shaming them and reporting them to HR without solid proof. Suddenly, the office becomes a toxic wasteland. Innocent colleagues are under the microscope and team morale drops. You thought you were upholding justice, but you've only spread chaos. But have you ever asked yourself whether you guilt-trip someone into following your idea of what's right? We talked about this before, but think about it for a minute and try to remember if you've ever wronged someone this way. It's like playing puppeteer with people's feelings. This ruins relationships and breeds resentment. Congratulations, you're a master manipulator. So, the point of all this is, your justice-driven actions can backfire big time. You expose a minor infraction, and suddenly someone loses their job or gets socially ostracized. The fallout is way worse than the original issue. Bravo, you become a disaster magnet. You act as the enforcer of justice, creating an environment of fear and distrust. People are afraid to make mistakes or express themselves. Growth and creativity are suppressed. You thought you were creating order, but you created a dystopia. So remember, even your best intentions can lead straight to hell. Virtues like justice and courage need to be balanced with wisdom and humility. Otherwise, you're just another well-meaning fool wreaking havoc. Moving on to the unintended consequences of helping too much, let's talk about Dr. Smith, a doctor who tries too hard to help and ends up causing chaos. In the first case, Dr. Smith pushes a pricey experimental treatment on a terminally ill patient. The treatment fails. The patient suffers more, and the family drowns in medical bills. Dr. Smith's good intentions backfire, causing more pain and financial ruin. Exploring a different avenue, Dr. Smith forces the treatment on a patient who wanted to die peacefully at home. He says, "If you don't try this, you're just giving up." The patient caves in, dies in agony in the hospital, far from family. Dr. Smith's meddling turns a peaceful death into a nightmare. We see this a lot with cancer patients. In another case, Dr. Smith sells the treatment as a miracle cure. "This could be the one," he says. The family hangs on to false hope, rearranging their lives. But the treatment fails. The family feels betrayed, emotionally wrecked. Dr. Smith's optimism crushes their spirits. In a totally different example, let's go back to our lawyer example, except this time, our hotshot lawyer takes on a case in which the client claims they're innocent, swearing they didn't commit the crime. The lawyer buys it, hook, line, and sinker. They throw everything they've got into the defense, bending over backward to prove the client's innocence. They dig up every piece of evidence, poke holes in the prosecution's case, and make the jury see the client as a victim of circumstance. The jury is convinced. What happens next? The client walks out of court a free person, the lawyer basking in the glory of another win. But then, reality hits hard. The client, who seemed so innocent, commits another crime. Maybe they rob someone, assault someone, or even worse. It's clear they were guilty all along. Now, let's break this down. The lawyer, thinking they were doing a good deed, has just unleashed a dangerous individual back into society. Their good intentions didn't just lead to a miscarriage of justice. They directly contributed to more harm, more victims, and more pain. This is a mistake. It's a disaster. The lawyer's efforts to help their client backfired spectacularly. The justice system is now a joke. The victims feel betrayed. And the lawyer? They're left questioning their judgment and ethics. So the point is, helping someone isn't always black and white. Good intentions don't guarantee good outcomes. Sometimes trying to help can create more problems than it solves, leading to unintended and often devastating consequences. With that being said, let's talk a bit about amor fati and the limits of aid. Deciding on who to help and how can be heavy. A doctor in a war zone faces brutal choices every second. With barely enough supplies and too many wounded, they decide who gets help and who dies. It's mostly to do with carrying the crushing weight of fate. The doctor can't save everyone. Each choice leaves emotional scars. They save one soldier, but let another die. This constant triage breeds guilt and helplessness. Choosing who to save isn't easy. A severely injured child might barely survive, while a less injured adult has a better shot. The doctor weighs these factors, making gut-wrenching decisions that haunt them long after the war ends. Now, amor fati means accepting fate, even when it's harsh. For the doctor, this principle can guide them. They can't save everyone, and they mustn't let guilt consume them. Accepting amor fati helps them see their role in a bigger picture, knowing they did their best within the limits they faced. The doctor finds meaning in the chaos. By accepting death's inevitability and survival's randomness in war, they focus on the value of each life saved, no matter how few. Helping others in a crisis isn't always noble or uplifting. It can be dark and morally twisted, especially for a Stoic balancing duty with harsh reality. Any doctor in general holds immense power over life and death. This creates an imbalance, making them both a healer and a grim reaper. This division triggers an internal struggle with identity and purpose. Despite their best efforts, the doctor feels intense guilt for those they couldn't save. This guilt can turn into resentment toward the war, the situation, and even themselves. Accepting amor fati helps process these emotions, but it doesn't erase the pain. Constant exposure to death and suffering takes a toll on their mental health. They might battle PTSD, depression, or anxiety. Amor fati offers consolation, but the darkness of their experiences remains a heavy burden. And to break down this messed up situation even further, when a doctor in a war zone is always trying to help everyone, especially those beyond saving, they start feeling useless. Helping the hopeless drains them emotionally and mentally. Stoicism values personal strength and self-reliance, but in this chaos, those values get squashed. The doctor's constant intervention crushes the injured soldier's ability to fight for themselves. Imagine a gravely wounded soldier trying to stay alive. When the doctor intervenes too much, it takes away the soldier's drive. The soldier starts thinking their survival depends only on the doctor, losing the will to fight. Even worse, constant help stops people from becoming resilient. Soldiers who could have found inner strength become dependent on the doctor, weakening their spirit. The doctor, seeing the uselessness, feels more helpless. Each failed rescue adds emotional scars, making them question their purpose, leading to even more depression and anxiety than they already had. Besides, amor fati also teaches us to find meaning in suffering. The struggles and pain soldiers go through are not meaningless because they shape their character and resilience. When the doctor intervenes too much, they strip away this meaning, turning the soldier's suffering into plain obstacles to be removed rather than essential experiences to be welcomed. In a war zone, self-reliance is essential. Soldiers need to trust their survival skills. Excessive intervention tells them they can't survive alone, destroying their self-reliance and making them feel weaker and more vulnerable. In the end, despite good intentions, the doctor ends up trapped in a cycle of helplessness and emotional instability. Moving on, let's talk about toxic positivity and Stoicism. Toxic positivity is all about pushing constant happiness and ignoring real struggles. When helping others, This can hide the need to face challenges. Now, since Stoicism values confronting reality and learning from hard times, always pushing positivity sets unrealistic expectations. Life isn't pain-free. Stoicism teaches that we grow by facing hardships. If we always encourage without acknowledging struggle, we rob others of important life lessons. Think about parents telling their kids they're perfect when they're not, or a boss saying workers are doing great when they're failing. Think about when friends tell someone in debt, "Don't worry, things will get better," instead of facing their money problems. This person keeps blowing cash, thinking it'll magically get better. Or think about someone sick, but their family says, "Stay positive, you'll be fine," while ignoring real treatment. This toxic positivity can mean missing necessary medical care. While on the subject, there's absolutely nothing wrong with white lies. You see, when it comes to white lies, they're not always bad, especially when they offer comfort over harsh truths. Picture a dying relative asking if they'll get better. Saying, "Yes, you're looking better every day," might give them peace in their final days. The truth can be a cruel burden. In reality, a white lie can be a gift, making their last moments more bearable. Stoicism values facing reality, but also values wisdom and compassion. Sometimes a lie can ease a tormented soul. Take a mother with terminal cancer, asking her son if she'll live to see her grandchild. The son knows she won't, but says, "Of course you will." In this case, the son isn't really denying reality. He's giving her a bit of happiness. The son knows the harsh truth serves no purpose but to increase suffering. The dark side of undying positivity ignores the complex nature of human emotions. And in the face of death, ethical lines blur. Sometimes, a white lie can be the most compassionate act you can do. Understanding the dark side of helping others means recognizing when honesty only increases pain. In these deeply emotional moments, a white lie can provide comfort and peace in a cruel world. Going back to the topic of toxic positivity, you should know that it also weakens resilience by blocking the expression of negative emotions. Stoicism says, true strength comes from understanding and managing all emotions. If we protect others with empty optimism, we stop them from building resilience. We see this happening regularly when someone gets divorced and people comfort them by saying, "There's plenty of fish in the sea," or when a widow loses her spouse, her support circle keeps telling her, "They're in a better place, just be happy for them." This dismissive positivity doesn't allow her to grieve properly. Instead of finding comfort, she feels pressured to hide her sorrow and pretend everything is okay. Over time, unresolved grief can lead to severe mental health issues. A real Stoic builds real resilience through confronting and understanding all emotions, including grief and sorrow. The same goes when a middle-aged worker gets laid off. His friends and family keep saying, "It's a blessing in disguise, you'll find something better." This non-stop positivity can make him feel worse, as it invalidates his fears about financial security and self-worth. He might start feeling isolated, unable to share his true feelings. A Stoic must never mask fears with false cheer. So, when toxic positivity suppresses real emotions for fake cheerfulness, it harms relationships. A Stoic must always value truth and authenticity. Acknowledging all emotions, even the tough ones, is key for growth. Promoting constant happiness denies this truth. And with that said, let's get into the issue of knowing when to step in and when to step away. Now, Stoicism talks about prohairesis, which means our ability to make choices. It's when we decide for ourselves, regardless of what's happening around us. When helping others, we must know when to get involved and when to hold back. This skill is key in handling the tricky nature of being altruistic. Since we talked a bit about altruism or selflessness before, let's examine it further. You see, helping isn't always simple. Stoics tell us to use our judgment. As we have explored in this video so far, sometimes helping can hurt more than it helps. We need to be wise about it, as it's a complex area filled with ethical questions. Let's go back to our example of Dr. Smith, except this time he's a 55-year-old boss named Mr. Smith. In this example, we will mention almost every Stoic lesson we have come across in this video so far. Mr. Smith's got a soft spot for one of his employees, Dave. Dave's been screwing up for months. Missed deadlines, sloppy work, constant mistakes. Instead of firing Dave, Mr. Smith feels sorry for him. He thinks Dave just needs a little more time, a few easier tasks. Mr. Smith thinks he's being a good guy, giving Dave a break. But he's dead wrong. Mr. Smith made a terrible mistake by being too emotional, by thinking with his heart and not his brain, and by neglecting the well-being of the entire company. But nevertheless, let's dive deeper into the mess Mr. Smith's kindness is making. You see, the rest of the team is busting their butts, picking up Dave's slack. They're working late, dealing with the stress. Morale is tanking. They're frustrated and bitter. They see Mr. Smith's favoritism as unfair. They think, why should we work hard when Dave gets a free pass? Productivity drops like a rock. Quality of work goes downhill. Good employees start looking for new jobs where their efforts will be appreciated. Mr. Smith's so-called kindness is spreading like poison. The message he's sending: it's okay to be mediocre. Don't worry about doing your job right. This kills any drive or ambition in the team. People start doing the bare minimum because they see that excellence isn't rewarded here, only incompetence is. The workplace culture turns even more toxic. Gossip, backbiting, and resentment become the norm. And what about Dave? Mr. Smith's kindness isn't helping him either. Dave isn't growing, isn't learning. He's stuck in the same rut, thinking he's doing okay because Mr. Smith keeps giving him those easy tasks. Dave doesn't get the reality check he desperately needs. He never faces the consequences of his poor performance, so he never gets better. Mr. Smith's shielding is actually keeping Dave in a state of permanent mediocrity. Now, here's where it gets even uglier. The team starts resenting Dave big time. Behind closed doors, they mock him, call him names, and blame him for all the extra work they have to do. Think of it as high school bullying, except that adults are doing it amongst themselves. Dave becomes the office scapegoat, the guy everyone loves to hate. They bully him cunningly, making snide comments and excluding him from group activities. Dave gets alienated, feels like an outsider in his own workplace. This breeds even more toxicity. Some team members might even start sabotaging his work, making him look even worse to Mr. Smith. But Mr. Smith tolerates him, so no matter how bad things turn out, Dave will still be there. And what happens is that the overall productivity reaches an all-time low. But there reaches a point when the rest of the team is fed up and they want Dave gone. This turns the workplace into a battlefield, with everyone at each other's throats. The toxic environment spreads like a virus, infecting everyone. So, you see here, Mr. Smith's misplaced kindness is the root of all this chaos. By protecting Dave, he's thrown the whole team into turmoil, creating internal strife and making the workplace hell for everyone involved. Not only is this bad management, but one person's misguided actions have destroyed an entire team. In the end, Mr. Smith's decision to keep Dave on board has also hit the company's bottom line. Projects are delayed, clients are unhappy, and the company's reputation took a hit. The cost of Mr. Smith's misplaced kindness has mounted. It's no longer about feelings and fairness anymore. It's about cold, hard cash. The company's losing money because Mr. Smith doesn't want to hurt Dave's feelings. Now, here's the unspoken truth. Mr. Smith might not even realize it, but his actions are selfish. He's not being kind for Dave's sake. He's being kind because he can't handle the discomfort of firing someone. Mr. Smith wants to avoid the hard decision. It has less to do with helping Dave or the team. Mr. Smith's comfort is costing everyone else dearly. His kindness is nothing but cowardice dressed up as compassion. And the brutal truth? Sometimes being kind means being tough. It means making hard decisions for the greater good. Mr. Smith's failure to fire Dave is a cruelty to the rest of the team and even to Dave himself. True leadership requires the guts to make the tough calls, not hiding behind a false sense of compassion. Real compassion sometimes means being tough and letting people face the consequences of their actions. Mr. Smith is enabling Dave's bad behavior instead of empowering him to get better. This is a moral failure on Mr. Smith's part. By shielding Dave from consequences, Mr. Smith is hurting him in the long run. When Dave eventually meets a boss who won't coddle him, he'll be in for a rude awakening. He'll be unprepared and might even get fired. Mr. Smith's actions now are setting Dave up for a bigger fall later. Dave's dependency on Mr. Smith also spills into his personal life. He starts relying on his family and friends to fix his problems, straining those relationships. His personal growth is stunted because he never learns to handle challenges on his own. Now, Mr. Smith's actions show a misunderstanding of Stoicism. Stoicism teaches strength and wisdom in making tough choices, not avoiding them. His weakness in handling Dave isn't Stoic. It's just creating more problems for everyone. True Stoicism would mean having the courage to do what's right, even when it's hard. So, here's a lesson for us all. Before helping, you should ask, can they handle this on their own? Will my help make them dependent or encourage self-reliance? Am I respecting their right to make their own choices? Then you must reflect on why you want to help. Ask yourself, am I helping to feel good about myself or to gain recognition? Is my help truly for their benefit? Would I still help if no one knew? Next, you must think about the outcomes of your help. Here, you would ask yourself, could my help cause unintended harm? Am I considering the long-term impact? Do I understand the situation well enough? And finally, you should always respect their boundaries. In this case, ask yourself, have I been invited to help? Am I imposing my help? How can I support their independence? Reflect on this deeply. In every interaction, every action, and every conversation, we are either helping or harming ourselves and others. Often, we do both simultaneously. Consider these questions carefully. Contemplate how to create win-win situations for everyone involved. Now, we talked a bit about getting burned out in a previous section. Let's dive deeper and discuss helping without getting burned out. By now, you're already aware that when you help others non-stop, you can get emotionally exhausted. This burnout is a big risk, leaving you tired and less effective. From a Stoic view, it's very important to keep yourself balanced. Take a social worker, for instance. They might get so wrapped up in their clients' problems that they feel numb and detached from their own feelings. This emotional drain reduces their empathy and performance, which can hurt those they're trying to help. The Stoic idea of apatheia means staying calm and rational, not indifferent. You've got to keep your inner peace despite the outer chaos. When helping others, it means you have to stay balanced, offering help without getting emotionally overwhelmed. Think of a doctor in a busy ER. By practicing apatheia, they stay calm and give better care without panicking. This stability helps their patients and protects the doctor from burnout. Helping professions like doctors, nurses, social workers, and caregivers are tough. Constant exposure to suffering and the non-stop need to help can lead to burnout, physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion. Burnout makes you less effective, detached, cynical, and lowers your job performance. So, yes, from a Stoic perspective, burnout shows you're out of balance. As we all know, Stoics value virtue, wisdom, and self-control. Ignoring your own well-being for others' sake strays from these values, making it hard to act wisely and virtuously. But since we've talked about the basics of this idea, let's expand on it. You see, in a sense, burnout isn't exactly being tired. Well, it is, but look at it as though it's a deep form of exhaustion that bleeds into every part of your life. You start wanting to help, but the constant demands wear you down. You become detached, like a robot. And the passion you had? It's dead. When burnout hits, your job performance drops. You make mistakes, forget things, and miss details. You start cutting corners to get through the day. Your mind feels foggy, and every task feels like climbing a mountain. You see now how it's more than simply getting tired, eh? It's much more than that, though. Burnout affects your brain. It shrinks the part that handles decision-making and problem-solving. Your emotions go haywire, and you're stuck in fight-or-flight mode. You can't think straight and react emotionally to everything. Your body suffers too. Burnout messes with your immune system, making you sick more often. You might get chronic conditions like high blood pressure or heart disease. Your sleep is disrupted, making everything worse. Burnout is like being possessed by an evil spirit. You can think of it as a dark force taking over your life, controlling your every move. You lose sight of what really matters because burnout rules over you. You see, it's not really a feeling. It's a demon that grips your soul. You no longer control your actions. This demon makes you forget why you started helping in the first place. Your purpose, your values, they all vanish. This possession drives you to keep giving, even when you're empty. It whispers lies, convincing you that you must push through, no matter the cost. You think you're doing the right thing, but in reality, you have no clue what's going on, because burnout is doing everything on your behalf, while using your physical form to do them. You also lose touch with your loved ones, your hobbies, and even yourself. Your life becomes a series of automatic actions, dictated by the demon of burnout. Every decision is clouded. You might think you're still helping, but really, you're just going through the motions. The quality of your work drops, and your relationships suffer. You snap at those you care about, retreating further into the command of burnout. This demon blinds you, making you believe that senseless, never-ending self-sacrifice is noble, when in reality, it's a path to destruction. You forget to care for yourself. Your health declines, your mind grows foggy, and your emotions become unpredictable. The things that once brought you joy now feel like chores. The demon of burnout prospers on your misery, feeding off your ceaseless drive to help others at your own expense. To break free from this possession, you must recognize the demon for what it is. You've got to reclaim control over your life, set boundaries, and understand that true altruism doesn't have anything to do with self-destruction. Only then can you see clearly again, helping others without losing yourself in the process. So, the point is, helping others can destroy you. It doesn't always destroy you, but it can. And when it does, burnout is one of the consequences. You give, 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 until there's nothing left. You think you're being selfless, but really, you're just destroying yourself. The more you help, the more people expect from you. It's a never-ending cycle. We mentioned this before. People see you as a resource, not a person. They don't care about your well-being. They just want what you can give. And you, trying to be the hero, let them take and take. This reminds us of the example we mentioned before, having your home open to your friends all the time, letting them use it as though it were their own. This is not altruism, ladies and gentlemen. It's self-destruction. Society praises selflessness, yes, but it's a double-edged sword, and both ends of that sword are pitted against you no matter what. By always putting others first, you neglect yourself. You become a martyr, and for what? To be seen as a good person. It's a hollow reward. You become a good person, you act like a good person, but you don't have to show others you're a good person. This takes us back to the idea that you should forget about external validation. When your health declines, your happiness fades. When that happens, you're left empty. When you're always there to save the day, people stop trying to help themselves. They rely on you, becoming helpless and dependent. Your help isn't empowering them, it's crippling them. Just like Dave at the office. You're not building them up, you're making them weaker. Your constant help can enable bad behavior. People know they can count on you to fix their messes, so they don't bother changing. They continue their destructive habits, knowing you'll clean up after them. Your kindness feeds their irresponsibility. There's this dangerous idea that you can always give more, but you can't pour from an empty cup. The more you give, the less you have. Eventually, you have nothing left to offer, not even to yourself. Endless giving is a lie. It's a path to ruin. Stoicism teaches us to keep balance. Help others, yes, but not at the cost of your own well-being. Practice staying calm to keep your inner peace. Recognize when your help is needed and when it's harmful. Don't let the weight of the world crush you. Be wise in your altruism. Know when to step back. Only then can you truly make a difference without destroying yourself. Remember the American motto, look out for number one. Moving on, let's talk a bit more about the Stoic struggle of feeling good versus doing good. Now, since Stoicism teaches us to act from reason and virtue, sometimes these teachings get twisted, leading to harmful results. Let's explore how Stoic principles can be misused to justify neglect or excessive detachment. First of all, remember that Stoicism tells us to focus on our rational mind and not let external things disturb our peace. Misunderstanding this can make people think helping others is an external worry that should be ignored. This can lead to neglecting others' genuine needs to keep one's own peace. Take a modern executive or CEO who practices Stoicism. He sees a struggling employee but decides not to help, thinking his duty is to maintain his own rationality and peace. Everyone should fend for themselves, he thinks. Now, not only he's not keeping the peace, but he's dodging the messy bits of being a boss. Here's what goes down next. That employee he ignored, he or she is sinking fast. Their work slips, they're stressed to the max, and pretty soon the whole team's vibe is off. People start worrying, am I next? Will I be left to hang out to dry too? Trust in the boss goes down hard. But here's the thing. The boss thinks he's teaching them resilience, showing them how to be tough and deal with their own mess. What he's really teaching is that he doesn't give a hoot. Science tells us that a place where folks feel supported makes everyone work better and happier. When that support's missing, feelings get hurt, work goes downhill, and people genuinely start falling apart. But hold on, the CEO is onto something, right? His stone-cold Stoic sense shows everyone how to keep calm in a storm. That's great and all, but there's a thin line between teaching people to be resilient and just leaving them out in the cold. Now, let's stir up some real trouble. This whole, I'm teaching you resilience by ignoring you routine can come off as cold-hearted or even cruel. It's almost like saying, hey, I could help, but then I'd have to care. And it gets worse. This attitude can make the workplace feel like survival of the fittest, and not everyone's cut out for that game. Some folks will break under that kind of pressure, and saying they should just toughen up is like telling someone with a broken leg to just walk it off, or a stutterer to just spill it out. Worse still, it's an easy out for the boss. using Stoicism as a get-out-of-jail-free card for not dealing with problems, dodge responsibility, and it practically laughs in the face of it. And here's the real devil in the details. While the strong get stronger under this regime, the folks who are already lagging just keep falling further behind. This is unfair because it's creating a workplace where only the tough or the cold-hearted can thrive. Imagine an entire workplace with such types of personalities. It's a cesspool of toxicity. So, yeah, Stoicism's got its perks, keeping your head when all about you are losing theirs and all that. But let's not kid ourselves. When it turns into an excuse for not helping out or showing a little heart, it's not just unhelpful, it's downright destructive. And the lesson here? A little compassion goes a long way. You can keep your peace without turning into the office ice king. So, while Stoicism promotes emotional resilience and not getting too attached to outcomes or people, when you take this too far, it leads to being indifferent to others' suffering. This detachment results in a cold approach to helping, where actions lack empathy. But let's look at this from a different angle or sense. In any bunch, you've got two types of people who need help. Those who genuinely can't pull themselves up because they just don't know how, and those who, even if you handed them all the help in the world, wouldn't know what to do with it. Think of the first group as folks who lost their map and just need directions, and the second group as those who wouldn't recognize a map if it hit them in the face. For instance, you've got those big-mouthed billionaires, gurus, life coaches, and so-called entrepreneurs who keep telling you to do this or that to make it big, to become rich, and whatnot. But in truth, most people need either the right connection, the right push, or the right circumstance to succeed in business. Anyhow, regarding the folks who need a hand because they're a bit lost, these are your teammates or friends who have the drive. They just lack the know-how. Maybe they missed out on some essential skills along the way, or never got the memo on how to get ahead. It's like they're stuck in gear and just need someone to show them how to shift. Helping these folks is good karma, and it's a solid investment. Teach them the ropes and watch them climb. This is where helping shines. It turns clueless into capable. Then there's the second crew. These folks could be handed the keys to the kingdom and they'd still be stuck at the gate. It's not just that they don't know, it's that they don't act. You can pour your heart out trying to lift them up, but it's like pouring water into a bucket with a hole. This is the black hole of help. The more you give, the less you see. It's like trying to teach a cat to bark or a duck to roar. No matter how hard you try, you're just going to end up with a confused cat, a confused duck, and a lot of wasted effort. Now, here's the controversial thing. Not everyone deserves your help. That's right. Let's say it loud and clear. In the brutal reality of life, some investments just don't pay off. Helping someone who can't or won't help themselves is like throwing your efforts into a bonfire and watching it burn. It's harsh, but think about it. Time and energy are precious. Should you spend it on a lost cause or on someone who'll take that help and multiply it? And here's where it gets devilishly tricky. Deciding who's who in this help game can turn you into either a hero or a villain. Help the right person, and you're a wise man, lifting up those who will later stand tall. Misplace that help, and you're the fool, draining resources on a sinkhole. So, what's the bottom line? Be smart about who you help. Some people are one good break away from thriving, and others, they're just going to drag you down with them. Choose wisely, or you might just find yourself being the punchline of a very bad joke about wasted potential. Now, imagine a Stoic doctor. He maintains emotional distance, treating patients with clinical efficiency but no compassion. He believes true Stoicism means detaching from emotions. While he does his job well, his lack of empathy can alienate patients and hold back their recovery. Here, Stoicism blocks forming meaningful, supportive relationships. Today, walking into a hospital feels more like checking into a budget airline. You're just another customer, not a patient. They slap an ID on you, shuffle you through a system that cares more about efficiency than how scared or sick you feel. It's like they're trying to set a new world record for the least amount of time spent with a human being. Now, let's rewind to the good old days, back to Hippocrates, Galen, and the early Islamic Empire. These guys were the rock stars of ancient medicine. Hippocrates was all about treating people, not just diseases. He'd probably facepalm at the sight of modern clinics, where it's all about getting you in and out as fast as possible. Then there's Galen, who was like the Sherlock Holmes of the body, always digging deep, but never forgetting that he was dealing with humans with real fears and pains. And don't get us started on the early Islamic medical stars like Al-Razi and Ibn Sina. These guys ran hospitals that were more like community centers, focusing on the whole patient, body, mind, and spirit. Flash forward to today, and what do we have? We're living in corporate Earth, or as we like to call it, Earth Incorporated. Hospitals that treat you like you're on a factory conveyor belt. Sure, they're sometimes good at what they do, but the warmth is gone. You're prescribed chemicals and toxins instead of simple, natural remedies. It's like being fixed by a mechanic, a very rushed one. The whole thing feels like a scam, where they're more worried about lawsuits or hitting targets than actually listening to what's affecting you. Imagine if a Stoic doctor from back in the day showed up in today's hospitals. He'd stick out like a sore thumb, insisting on keeping his cool and not getting emotionally involved. Efficient? Sure. But his patients might feel like they're at the DMV instead of in a place that's supposed to care for them. And here's the punchline. Modern healthcare has lost its soul. Patients miss the days when doctors had the time to actually talk to them, not just talk at them. The old healers knew that caring for someone was as much about understanding their fears as treating their symptoms. But today, if Hippocrates walked into a modern hospital, he'd probably check himself right back out. Although it's sad, it's also kind of hilarious in a dark, "are you kidding me?" way. Modern medicine could really learn a thing or two from the ancients. Maybe it's time to ditch the efficiency playbook and bring some humanity back to healthcare. After all, isn't healthcare supposed to be about treating the person and not just treating the numbers? So, let's remind you once more, you must always balance rationality with compassion. Help others without sacrificing your peace, but don't use Stoicism as an excuse for indifference. And you should always stay connected by maintaining emotional resilience. However, stay empathetic and connected to those around you. You should also realize the impact by understanding that your actions, or lack thereof, affect others. Use Stoicism to strengthen, not weaken, your relationships and community ties. You see, the dark side of helping others as a Stoic comes from misunderstanding Stoic teachings. When Stoicism is twisted to justify neglect or excessive detachment, it goes against its core values of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. True Stoicism calls for reasoned compassion, balancing inner peace with genuine concern for others. So yes, the problem isn't Stoicism itself, but how it's distorted. The goal of tranquility shouldn't mean losing our humanity. And with these thoughts in mind, let's take a look at a bit of practical Stoicism. Now, ask yourself, do you worry a lot? And do you think about the worst things that could happen and stress about them? It's natural, but it can mess with your mind. There's an ancient Stoic trick that can help. It's called premeditation. Since Stoicism is about choosing how you judge things, the Stoics believe nothing is good or bad by itself. We decide what's good or bad. As Hamlet said, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Similarly, Epictetus told us that men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. and Marcus Aurelius stated that if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. We control our minds, so we control our feelings. There's a gap between what happens to us and how we judge it. For example, if someone insults you, you can pause and decide how to judge it and how to respond. Let's dig into both sides of this. When you respond with indifference, you choose to brush it off when you get insulted. You think, their words can't harm me, I control my reaction. It sounds noble, right? But there's a dark side to this indifference. For instance, let's say you're at work, and a colleague calls you incompetent in front of everyone. You shrug it off, thinking it's beneath you to react. Over time, this person keeps poking at you because they know you won't fight back. Your indifference becomes their playground. You allowed them, or rather, you enabled them to begin this sort of bullying. That's exactly how bullying starts with kids too. This catalyst is also what causes other colleagues to see this and start losing respect for you, or even join in the bullying. They see you as weak or detached. Your silent stance might even embolden the initial jerk to target others, creating a toxic work environment. Your indifference can even spread like a virus, weakening the team's spirit and morale. Now, let's flip the coin. Let's say you get insulted, and instead of ignoring it, you decide to respond calmly but firmly. You say, "That's uncalled for. Please show some respect." Here, you're still using your rational mind, but you're setting boundaries. However, will that really work? Some people are thick-headed. You need to put in more effort to get your point across their thick skull. To do that, there's the third option, violence and intimidation. However, that goes against Stoic principles. Let's explain why. So, someone insults you, and despite being a Stoic, you respond in a violent manner. In the office, this is a one-way ticket to getting fired, or worse, getting arrested if the other person presses charges on you for laying a hand on them or by simply threatening them. On the street, however, let's say you're walking down the road and some punk insults you. Instead of brushing it off or calmly setting a boundary, you snap. You grab the guy by the collar, get in his face, and give him a piece of your mind. Maybe even throw a punch. You think, well, he asked for it. Afterward, people see you differently. You're no longer the calm, collected Stoic. You're the person who loses it and resorts to violence. Some might respect you out of fear, but most will see you as unstable, unpredictable. The police get involved, you face legal trouble, and your reputation takes a hit. On a side note, remember that you're bordering on the domain of Niccolo Machiavelli's the so-called prince. To the Machiavellians, it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. It is much safer to be feared than loved because love is preserved by the link of obligation, which, owing to the baseness of men, is broken at every opportunity for their advantage. But fear preserves you by a dread of punishment, which never fails. Machiavellians believe in the effectiveness of fear over love as a tool for maintaining power and control. You can choose to believe in that, or you can do it the Stoic way. Think of it like this. You're at a family barbecue, and Uncle Joe starts his usual ribbing. Instead of laughing it off or telling him to knock it off, you flip the picnic table and chase him with a hot dog skewer. Sure, Uncle Joe won't mess with you again, but now you're the family's loose cannon. Thanksgiving will never be the same. You're forcing everyone you love to fear you. As a Stoic, you don't want that. At the same time, you wouldn't want to be at the other end of the rope where everyone walks all over you all the time. Stoicism teaches self-mastery, but the violent response is the exact opposite. It shows weakness, not strength. You let someone else's words dictate your actions, and that's the ultimate loss of power. Therefore, responding with violence and intimidation might feel gratifying in the short term, but it's a fast track to chaos and regret. Always remember that Stoicism's true power lies in controlling your reactions, not succumbing to base instincts. This path is self-destructive. Remember, real strength comes from within, not from your fists. Let's show you a few more examples that many of us can relate to in our daily lives. Let's say your neighbor constantly parks in front of your driveway, blocking you. You've ignored it so far, thinking it's not worth the hassle. It's mankind's primary instinct to defend your territory from invaders, but nowadays we've grown utterly soft and weak. However, the issue persists. Then, one day, you calmly approach your neighbor and explain why it's a problem. They apologize and stop doing it. Here, you maintained your peace, but also took action. You helped yourself and possibly others who might have faced the same issue. Now, let's say you've been patient with your neighbor who keeps blocking your driveway. You've tried talking to them nicely, but it's like talking to a brick wall. They just keep parking there. You've been Mr. Nice Guy, but now it's time to show some teeth. As a Stoic, you don't want to be a pushover. However, you need to stand up for what's yours. What you can do in this case is get your phone out and start snapping pictures of their car blocking your driveway. Think of it like gathering evidence for a mini courtroom drama. Then draft a serious letter and maybe get a proper lawyer to spice it up with some legal jargon. Make it clear you mean business. In another scenario, instead of taking this small issue to court, then you could consider it time for you to get physical, but with an object, not your fists. Put up a barrier that says, "Not today, buddy." And if they still haven't gotten the message, it's time for the tow truck. It's drastic, but hey, you gave them fair warning. At the same time, you have every right, as a citizen, as a Stoic, as a person, to do that. To deal with it in another way, you could even consider slapping a huge, bright, sticky note on their windshield that says, "Move it, or I'm calling the tow." Picture the scene when the tow truck arrives. Maybe set up a lawn chair, grab some popcorn, and watch as their car gets hauled away. You could even charge admission for the neighborhood to watch the blockhead removal show. So, the bottom line is, going tough doesn't mean you have to lose your cool. Remember that you are a Stoic, and you must up your game when being nice just doesn't cut it anymore. Stoicism teaches us to handle things rationally, but let's be honest, it also teaches us not to let people walk all over us. This tough love approach teaches you how to defend your space with a dash of flair and a sprinkle of street theater. In the end, you're teaching jerks a lesson they will never forget. Now, let's extend these thoughts to the broader theme of life. When you consistently choose to help others, you might fall into the trap of either over-involvement or apathy. We've discussed this before, but let's explore it from a slightly deeper and different sense. Think about that particular friend who keeps asking you for advice on every little problem. Say, you're a financial advisor. Your pal keeps coming to you with their financial mess, always looking for free advice. Now, you've given a tip or two because, hey, you're friends. But this friend doesn't seem to get it. They keep coming back for more, like a cat who's tasted cream. Then one day, you've had enough. Instead of handing out more freebies, you snap. You say, "Look, I make my living off this. I can't keep handing out free advice like candy at a parade. If you value my professional expertise, let's make it official. Book a consultation and let's talk rates." You make it clear, no more free lunch. Now, this response might ruffle some feathers. Your friend, taken aback, might think you're being harsh. They might even call you greedy or accuse you of not being a true friend. But here's the thing, you're setting boundaries. It's about respect for your time and your expertise. This ties back to the previous examples we mentioned earlier in the video, when you keep giving, and people, being the vampires and blood-sucking leeches that they are, turn you into a monster for not wanting to let them continue sucking you dry. Imagine it like this. Your friend keeps asking for bites of your lunch every day. At first, it's no big deal. You share a fry. But then it's every day, and soon they're eating half your burger. One day, you just slap their hand away and say, "Dude, buy your own lunch." They look at you like you've just kicked their puppy, but hey, a person's got to eat, right? So, you see, giving advice for free, especially when it's your job, sets a dangerous precedent. It tells people that your professional time and knowledge aren't worth much, and what starts as a favor can turn into a habit, a bad one where your kindness is taken for granted. That is why it's beneficial to be an aggressive Stoic. You become an aggressive Stoic by maintaining integrity in your profession and setting your personal boundaries. Sure, it might sting your friend a bit, but it's also a wake-up call for them to start respecting your expertise and your time. Plus, it keeps your friendship from becoming a one-way street, where you're the bank and they're the eternally broke buddy. It's smart, it's necessary, because at the end of the day, even a Stoic has got to pay the bills. Helping others can sometimes feel like you're feeding seagulls at the beach. It feels good at first, tossing out crumbs, watching them flock around. But soon, more seagulls come, they get aggressive, and before you know it, you're swarmed. You started with good intentions, but now you're stuck in a Hitchcock movie. That's the dark side of being too helpful. You should remember that you can't always ignore insults or always help others without thinking. Each action has consequences. The key is to pause, judge the situation, and decide wisely. Sometimes, the best help is knowing when to step back, letting others face their challenges. And sometimes, a well-placed boundary is the best gift you can give to yourself and to others. In the end, the Stoic path is all about balance. To get into our initial topic of premeditation, it's worth recalling what Seneca once said. Unexpected events are the hardest to handle because they catch us off guard. For example, getting robbed feels worse because we felt safe at home. Sudden pain or loud noises are harder to handle than expected ones. But what could possibly go wrong? Well, that is precisely why Seneca suggested premeditatio malorum, or premeditation. Every day, think about the worst things that could happen: losing your job, your home burning down, even death. This might sound depressing, but the key is to also think about how you'll handle these situations. Marcus Aurelius also suggested imagining all the difficult people you'll meet and planning your response. This way, you prepare yourself. You're ready for the worst and know you can handle it. When tough times come, you can say, "I can deal with this." To give you a brief example, imagine you're a boss who takes a chance on a guy fresh out of rehab, hoping to give him a new shot at life. At first, things look great. He's working hard, showing up on time, and you pat yourself on the back for being such a good Samaritan. But then, out of the blue, the guy falls off the wagon. He slips up and dives headfirst into the deep end, raiding the company's petty cash and secretly selling off your equipment for drug money. Next thing you know, your business is tanking out of the blue, and you're not just firing him, you're laying off good, loyal workers who've been with you for years. Your good deed has just thrown a bunch of lives into chaos. This is when a nasty voice in your head tells you that no good deed goes unpunished. In a similar sense, suppose you start a support group for former criminals, helping them integrate into society. Sounds noble, right? But one member uses the group to network for his next heist, pulling everyone back into a life of crime. Instead of becoming a fresh start, your group becomes a reunion tour for felons. Likewise, let's say you foster a troubled teen, aiming to provide stability, but the teen is violent and ends up seriously injuring your own child in a fit of rage. This time, your attempt to be a savior backfires, harming the very family you vowed to protect. Now, your home's a war zone, not the sanctuary you dreamed of. Now, Seneca said, in times of peace, the soldier carries out maneuvers. Premeditation is like a soldier's training. Being prepared blunts the pain of the unexpected. Just as you train your body for endurance, you can train your mind for challenges. Your imagination can call up worst-case scenarios, tougher than reality. And Stoicism teaches us to use our worries as a form of mental immunization. Spend 5 minutes each day, perhaps over breakfast, imagining the worst things that could happen. This practice prepares your mind and builds your anti-anxiety battle plan. Then, face the day ready for anything. With that said, let's talk a bit about the psychology of helping. When a lot of people are around, no one feels the need to help because they think someone else will. This is called the bystander effect. It goes against Stoic principles of personal responsibility. The bystander effect is like watching a car wreck and everyone's rubbernecking but no one's calling 911. You see a guy on the street, hurting. People just stroll past, maybe throw him a pitying glance, but that's it. They're all thinking, not my circus, not my monkeys. But what if this whole do-nothing attitude is less about laziness and more about survival? Think about it. Maybe people are scared. Maybe they think the guy is faking it to grab some quick cash. Or worse, what if he or she is dangerous? Helping could mean trouble. This throws a nasty curveball at Stoicism. Stoics say, take responsibility, right? But here's a wild thought. What if the most responsible thing you can do is nothing? Maybe the guy on the ground needs to fight his own battles, to toughen up. Helping might just make him weaker. And let's face it, sometimes sticking your nose in someone else's mess just gets your face punched. That's the taboo, the dark side we're not supposed to talk about. Helping isn't always heroic. Sometimes it's just plain dumb. And to get even more straightforward and a bit edgy about why sometimes, according to Stoic thinking, it might be best to just walk on by when someone's in a mess they caused themselves. Let's say our guy on the street picked a fight trying to show off and ended up knocked out. If you think about it, maybe he should just lie there a while and soak up the lesson. Don't start what you can't finish. Stoics believe in tough love. They'd say he needs to learn from his pain, not be rescued from it. Or what about the guy who's always messing up and expecting others to clean up his disasters? If every time he screws up, someone's right there to fix it, he's never going to learn to sort himself out. From a Stoic point of view, maybe the best thing we can do for him is nothing. Let him hit rock bottom. It might sound harsh, but sometimes you need to feel the fire to learn not to play with matches. We all had to learn that tough lesson at some point in life, and sometimes we had to learn it more than several times. And here's a thought that really goes against the grain. Maybe stepping in and helping messes with nature's way of teaching a lesson. Stoics respect the natural order of things. Actions have consequences. If we jump in and soften the blow every time someone does something dumb, aren't we just getting in the way of them learning that bad choices lead to tough breaks? Don't see this as you are being heartless. Look at it as though it's long-haul help versus quick fixes. It's controversial because it flips our usual way of thinking. Therefore, as we said several times already, sometimes not helping is actually helping. Maybe the kindest thing we can do is let people face the music themselves, pushing them to grow up and learn from their own mistakes. So, in a twisted way, maybe those bystanders are onto something. Maybe by doing nothing, they're actually doing something pretty smart. They keep walking, keep their hands clean, and maybe, just maybe, they're the real Stoics in this story. To give you another example, picture a busy street. Someone collapses. Despite the crowd, no one helps right away because each person thinks another will do it. This delay can be dangerous. Nowadays, people even pull out their smartphones to film it instead of helping. Now, here's why that might happen. Firstly, think of it like a hot potato. No one wants to be the one holding it, so they toss it to the next person. In this case, everyone thinks, hey, someone else will help. And just like that, Nobody does. It's like a twisted game of responsibility tag, and everyone's it. Then there's the fear factor. What if you go to help and accidentally make things worse? Or what if you get sued because your help wasn't perfect? It's enough to make anyone freeze up. Better safe than sued seems to be the motto here. Think about this. A guy jumps in to do CPR at the mall, ends up cracking a rib, and the thank you he gets: a lawsuit. Then there's a lady who tries to break up a dogfight in the park, gets bitten, and on top of that, slapped with a fine for messing with someone else's pets. And don't forget the dude who stops to help at a car wreck, only to be blamed for hurting someone worse by moving them. These days, trying to be a hero can end up making you the villain. And with a crowd, you'd think at least one person would step up. But it's like having too many chefs in the kitchen, except no one wants to cook. It's a classic case of too many hands doing nothing, and everyone just hoping the problem will solve itself. But how people react can also depend a lot on where you are. In some places, people might jump in without a second thought. In others, people might be more cautious, thinking, what if this is a setup? It's a bit paranoid, sure, but hey, stranger things have happened. And of course, as we just mentioned, there's the tech angle. Why dive in when you can just document? If I can't be a hero, I'll be a director, seems to be the new trend. Capture it on camera and let professionals handle the rest, eventually. So next time you see someone taking a tumble, will you jump in, or will you just keep walking and check your likes on Instagram? It's a modern dilemma with a dash of dark humor. We should always remember that Stoicism says we must act according to our principles, no matter what others do. We are responsible for our own actions, but the issue arises when initiative takes the spotlight. It can go wrong on so many levels. For instance, at work, someone decides to play the hero and fix a failing project without asking the boss first. This could get messy. While you might think you're saving the day, to your boss, you're the employee who doesn't know their place. It's like cooking dinner at someone else's house without asking. It might taste great, but you weren't supposed to be in the kitchen. Now, supposing you jumped in because you thought it was the right move. But what if you don't have the whole picture? Maybe the higher-ups wanted to let the project sink to shift resources or change strategies. Now, you're not the hero. You're the guy who couldn't read the room, messing up big picture plans with your fixes. At the same time, if that was the case, then it was the higher-ups' fault for not announcing it. Going rogue can get you in hot water. Even if you sidestep a few rules to get things done, sure, the project gets saved, but now there's a trail of broken policies leading right to you. It's like you're trying to fix a leak in your house by redirecting it to your neighbor's place. Problem solved? Sure, but wait till the lawsuits fly. And what about your co-workers? Jump in alone and you might think you're leading the charge, but to them, you just stole the spotlight. Now you've got a bunch of annoyed, jealous, envious colleagues who feel overlooked. You meant to be a team player, but ended up playing solo, and nobody likes a ball hog. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there in the corporate world. Everyone's fighting for the same spot in the crowded jungle. Even if it looks like you've fixed everything for now, what if you've only put a band-aid on a bigger issue? You might end up causing a bigger mess down the line, like painting over mold. It looks fine for a bit, but eventually the problem's going to blow up even worse. Therefore, taking action without permission at work, thinking you're following your stoic duty to do the right thing, can turn into a comedy of errors where nobody's laughing. It shows the darker, stickier side of trying to help out as a stoic. Sometimes the road to chaos is paved with good intentions. And now, let's talk a bit about the trap of helping too long. Let's call it the sunk cost delusion. This is when people keep putting effort into something just because they've already invested time or resources, even when it's not paying off. This leads to poor choices, as past efforts cloud judgment about present and future gains. When we put a lot into helping someone, it's hard to stop. We feel tied to our efforts, thinking quitting means wasting what we've done. This attachment blinds us to the harm of continuing. This is similar to that situation we mentioned earlier in this video, when you keep helping out your friend's business, but to no effect. So, let's say, your friend's got a failing restaurant, and you keep trying to get this failing restaurant off the ground. You keep dumping cash and weekends into it, but it's like pouring water into a sieve. You keep helping, and boom, you're out of gas. You're so fried from fixing someone else's life that you've got nothing left for yourself. It's like trying to fill cups with an empty pitcher. This brings us back to our older topic of burning out. Even worse, the more you help, the more they need help. You think you're giving them a leg up, but really, you're just making them a professional help seeker. They're stuck to you like a tick, and that's not just annoying, it's kind of creepy. And while you're busy playing superhero, your own castle is falling apart. Maybe your health's slipping, your family's wondering where you vanished to, or your dog's starting to forget who you are. Your friends and family feel like you've left planet Earth for planet problem. They miss you, and they might just start resenting the black hole of need you're trying to fill. So, keep shelling out for lost causes, and you might just find your wallets dieting down to nothing. You started off trying to be generous, and now you're scraping to pay your bills. And just so you know, these aren't really tough choices. As a Stoic, it should be easy enough for you to determine what's worth your time and what isn't. Stoicism's all about the wise play. Sometimes the smartest, toughest choice is cutting someone off. It's like telling them, grow up or ship out. It sounds harsh, but it can be the kick they need. Adding some humor to this, think of it like throwing a non-swimmer into the deep end, not to drown them, but to make them kick harder. Sure, you might watch them flail a bit, but there's a chance they'll figure out how to swim faster than if you just keep tossing them floaties. So, in the end, after all that's been said and done in this video, sometimes the best way to help someone is to stop helping. It's controversial, sure, because it flies in the face of what we're taught about always lending a hand. But remember, even doctors say sometimes the cure is worse than the disease. Maybe it's time we admit that cutting off a leech is better for both parties. Less blood-sucking, more growing up. So, think about it. Have you been a crutch for someone who really needs to learn to stand on their own? Hit that subscribe button if you're brave enough to take on more of these bold truths. Drop a comment below. Let us know if you've ever had to make the hard choice to stop helping. Having said that, spend a few minutes thinking about whether you're really helping or are you just making things worse. See you in the next video.